Hola estudiantes, el video aquí es sobre comparativos, or comparisons. So in English, that would be when we have words that end in ER, or when we're using words like more or less than. So like, he is nicer than I am, so we'd have that ER. Or I have more clothing than she does, for instance. So some key vocab words here in Spanish. We have más, which means more, menos, less. Think of the phrase más o menos that we learned at the start of the year. Que is going to be than. I know that can also mean what or that, but in this case it means than for comparisons. So más and menos are always going to be followed by than. So it's like these two are always going to go, that's that will go together. Then we have tan or tanto, and that's always going to be followed by como. So these words mean as, and this would be like the first as. So if I'm saying she's as pretty as a princess, this would be that first as in that sentence, and como also means as in this case. I know it can also mean how, but it's going to be the second as in this case. Notice in Spanish, they do not have the ER ending like we do in English for comparisons. So I did not list that in the ER ending in Spanish in our title slide. So you'll always be saying more or less in these cases. So the más que, menos que are going to be called unequal comparisons because you're trying to say someone is more or less than someone else. Whereas here, tan, como, and tanto como are going to be equal comparisons, like we're saying two things are equal, like apples are as nutritious as oranges, for instance. So we're going to start with how to compare adjectives or nouns. So for instance, an adjective comparison could be saying she is as gorgeous as me, or he is as smart as Bill Gates. Or noun comparisons could be comparing how much somebody has of something. For instance, I have more board games than my friend. Or she has more cookies than me, for instance. Like usually having more of something. So here's some so the important thing to know with adjective and noun comparisons is that you'll have like the más or menos word, and then you're going to have the adjective or noun, so you can see all these blanks that I left, and then you have the word que or como for tan. So we only use tan here with adjectives and nouns. So the adjective or noun is going to go in this blank. So I'm going to show you examples of all of these formulas. So we're going to start with adjective formulas. We are talking all about gatos and perros today. So el perro es más grande que el gato. So más is more big than the cat. So grande here is agreeing with perro. They're both masculine and singular. The cats are less big than the dog. So a lot of these are just going to be the same word order as English. So less, big, than, here is all in the same order. Also notice since gatos are plural here, ending in S, I had to make grandes plural as well because it's referring back to our subject, the gatos. El perro es tan bonito como la gata. So here I have a male dog and a female cat that's wearing a pretty pink bow. So bonito is masculine to agree with the dog. So I'm trying to say they're equally pretty. Like normally I'm not a dog person, but I think this is a really pretty dog. So that's why I chose to say tan como because it's an equal comparison. Moving on to comparing noun items now. So we're going to compare how much food the dogs and cats have. So here the dog has more food than the cat. Notice it has a bigger bowl. So I had to use more, then I have my item, which is food, and then K, than. Now the cat has less food than the dog. So even though I have the same picture, a lot of these you can flip to say someone has more of something and then the other person has less of it. So less food than, same word order as English. So then here with, they have the same amount of food, the dog and the cat. I have tanta, comida, como, el gato. So tanta, I had to make feminine to agree with comida, which is also feminine. So notice tanto is used with nouns instead of tan. And I can write that down as a note if you'd like. We're going to move on to comparing verbs, or comparing how much someone does an action. Here the verb is going to come before the comparison. So like in English, I could say my parents run more than me because they like to run and I don't. So more than comes after the verb run. Or I could say students study more than adults because they have to take classes, for instance, and more than comes after the verb studies. Or I could say dogs eat as much as horses. If I'm trying to say they eat the same amount, so as much as is coming after eats. So that same word order is going to be true in Spanish here. So I have el perro come más que el gato. Come of the verb is coming before más que. So I'm putting the formula after the verb. So here I have menos que, less than, is coming after the verb once again. And then I have my example of them eating the same amount. So tanto como is coming after the verb come once again. With tanto como, as much as, it's always masculine with verbs. So I would never have to change it to tanta como or anything like that when I'm talking about verbs. There are a few irregulars here. Just like in English, we can't say more good than, we have to say better. We can't say badder, we say worse in English. So a lot of those are still true in Spanish. So here we have la abuela es mayor que las chicas. So instead of saying más vieja que, more older than, you have to say mayor. One way to remember this word mayor is that if you want to become a mayor, you have to be older. Next example, the girls are younger than their grandma. So older, younger are one irregular set. Menores, I had to make plural, add the es to make it plural because chicas is plural. Remember, minors are under 18, so they're younger than the mayor. Then the other irregular set is better and worse, which is irregular in English as well since they're used all the time. So the cookie is better than broccoli. It probably tastes better. So mejor is word for better. So I cannot say más buena que in this case. I think if you're majoring in something in college, you're probably pretty good at it. So good becomes mejor, which sounds like major. Finally, the broccoli is worse than the cookie. Peor means worse, so instead of saying more bad than más malo que, it all becomes peor. A lot of people say Peoria is the worst city, so peor sounds like Peoria for worse. So a lot of these are just remembering the irregulars and the word order. So the word order is the same as English. If you're comparing adjectives and nouns, you're going to put the adjective or noun in the middle of your formula. If you're comparing verbs, your verb is coming before the comparison formula. And then, of course, it's important to know these vocab words. Gracias por mirar. Hasta mañana.